This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Got a car to sell but no time to waste? Hop on to Carvana.com to get a real offer for your car in seconds. All you have to do is enter your license plate, answer a few quick questions, and if you accept the offer, Carvana will pay you as soon as you hand the keys over. They even offer same-day pickup in many cities. Save your time, score some cash, and sell your car the convenient way to
Carvana.
Pickup times vary. Fees may apply.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
Welcome to Farm Your Daily, a field-forward podcast. I'm David Geiger, your host. Southern rust has been found in Iowa, and we're going to be speaking with Dan Bjorklund, an agronomist who's been scouting the disease. Please be sure to like and follow the podcast as well as our social media at Field Forward Pod. We would love to have you join our community, making sure folks are informed about what is affecting our farmers. This is Farm Your Daily. And joining me on Farm Your Daily, we're going to get a follow-up from last week with Dan Bjorklund with Landus. He's an agronomy technical advisor. And last week we were talking about Sky Scout and some of the data you were seeing from the air, Dan. And that's the first question I want to jump into right away is, have you seen more progression of disease across the state of Iowa in the last week?
The timing is perfect for this, David, because after our interview, I went to a field up in Hancock County in northern Iowa using Sky Scout, and I looked for those elevated temperatures again. I was looking for northern corn leaf blight. When I got out there, I found southern rust. It's the first southern rust I've seen this year, and one of our other reps with Landus over in the eastern part of the state was sending me a text as I was sending a text there, and she had found southern rust too. So timing perfectly. Southern rust is in Iowa, and it's pretty significant.
Wow. And let's go over how you found that. What was the discovery like? Why did you go and think it was a different disease?
Most of the diseases last week that we were finding in corn, they were either some tar spot over in the eastern part of the state or northern corn leaf blight, which is what I was looking for in the northern part of the state. What Sky Scout does is the imagery that I'm using called thermal just takes a temperature of the entire field. And so I'm looking for areas where a slightly elevated temperature, because that's what it seems to indicate. Just like with a human being, if we get a temperature, you could get sick. And so I was looking really for northern corn leaf blight, as indicated by Sky Scout, a diseased area. And I did find some, but when I found the rust, I immediately sent a photo to Iowa State, the extension person that I used there, and said, hey, I can bring this leaf into the disease lab. And she said, what county? Then I knew what it was. And then she also said, if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck. So there were only 4 counties found last week. I think it was last Friday. So we're 6 days out. We have 30 counties now in the crop protection network that Iowa State uses, Minnesota, Purdue, and they put together where these disease outbreaks are. And we are in an outbreak in Iowa with southern rust.
Wow. When you're looking at the disease, again, from the angle of an aerial perspective, are you able to still track how it's moving? Or is it more of I know when you deal with disease, it's mostly going to be in the soils. But have you noticed any interesting trends as you're looking at it?
Yeah, it's really interesting because you're able to find some of those areas where the temperatures are fluctuating are very small, maybe an acre. Then you go back in a week and that area is expanded out to several acres. And so that area of suspicion has grown, and we've been able to correlate it back. This is new technology to me. I've always used NDVI in other imagery, never using this kind of imagery. David, I have to say, I was even a little skeptical at the beginning of the season, but I thought, I'm going to go with it. And 4 weeks in now, I think I'm 100% every time. Like I said, it doesn't tell you exactly that this is great leaf spot or this is northern corn leaf blight, but every time I've gone into those areas of interest, that's where I found disease. And then you go back the next week to check again, and it's spread.
Last week, I think one of the most astonishing things that you mentioned was your concerns based on the data you were seeing that there would be a severe outbreak of disease next week. So it was 2 weeks ago from last week.
Yep.
Is that still the same?
Yes. Where I was incorrect, where I missed it, is I thought it was going to be northern corn leaf blight or tar spot or gray leaf. And it turns out it's southern rust.
Wow.
The thing is, southern rust doesn't live up here. It's a southern state disease. And what I'm thinking, when you look at the map of the U.S. that they put out and they're showing the counties and the states that are affected, you look down to Mississippi and Arkansas, and it's just like all the counties in the states are in a hot spot. So they really have something going there. So I looked, that's directly below us. And all the southern winds we had over the week of the 4th of July. So you're looking at the 4th of July week, blowing it up here, and it takes a couple of weeks for those symptoms to show up on the leaves. I think it's fitting perfectly that that's where it came from.
Let's go over southern rust specifically a little bit more into detail. What is it? What can it do to the crop? And what are ways that we deal with it?
I think some of our viewers, especially in agriculture, whether farming or in agri-retail or whatever, are familiar with common rust up here. And common rust is more of a elongated, kind of looks like little bricks on the leaves, and they spread. But it just doesn't seem to take up enough of the leaf to really cause any economic challenge. Southern rust is exactly what it says. It's very orange colored rust. And when it starts to sporulate, if you have an area of infection where it starts to sporulate, it sends out hundreds of thousands of spores. And during wet, warm, it likes warm. During wet, warm conditions, it'll go from leaf to leaf, from the lower part of the canopy to the higher part of the canopy. Last year, we had a mini outbreak in Iowa due to that tropical storm Beryl that came up in July.
Right.
And in the central part of the state, we had farmers who lost 50 bushels because they didn't know what they were dealing with. And either they hadn't applied fungicide at all, or they thought, I've already applied at VT, so I'm going to wait. And that decision was really costly. So that's kind of how it operates. It moves very quickly. 21 days to 28 days, you could go to the middle of July and have the corn dead by the middle of August. That's not a good look. That is going to cause a yield reduction. So fungicide applications are critical. What's really interesting is a couple of the fields this week that we saw had fungicide sprayed 10 days ago. And we're so wet in a lot of the area that Landus covers that we can't get ground equipment through the fields.
Right.
We'll go into aerial. Nothing against aerial. Aerial is great, whether it's planes or helicopters or drones. It's more difficult to get the spray all the way to the ground in 12 to 14 foot corn. I'm finding rust in 2 to 3 leaves below the ear leaf that does not look like it's been touched, even in fields that have been sprayed. And my thought is, okay, we're protecting down to the ear leaf, and that really is the most important part of the plant to fill the ear. However, you've got these leaves on the bottom. They're small leaves. They really don't contribute much for photosynthesis, but they're great inoculators. to reinfect. I mean, it's you talk about just crazy Mother Nature in the way that she operates. That's my concern, that we have individuals who are spraying. We're way behind because we can't get ground equipment in. Some of the airports, some of the sprayers are 10 days out. Even if you brought a field today, you couldn't get to it probably in 10 days because there's such a move. Everybody's moved from ground to air. It's very, very dangerous down here.
Just to put it in more of a layman's David's terms, what you were saying there is essentially, even though those bottom leaves on the corn plant aren't contributing directly to nutrient gathering, they are serving as essentially a hotspot to reinfect the rest of the plant, even if the upper parts did indeed get a fungicide. Yeah,
that's perfect. That's a perfect explanation. It all comes down to how long do you have when you spray, how much activity is the fungicide that you're using, how much protection are you going to have in that upper part of the plant. Some companies say they've got 28 days, some say more than that. What's interesting is if you go to the labels on all the major fungicides and look at the label, what they say is in high infestation situations, repeat applications every 14 days. I don't know a farmer in the last 40 years, because we weren't even doing it 40 years ago, but when we started spraying fungicides, I know no farmers who will spray every 14 days.
Right.
They do in South America, and they have something called soybean rust down there that's significant, and there are fields down there that are sprayed 2-3 times. Otherwise, they don't get a crop. We have not had this type of a situation, at least since 2014 when Northern Corn Leaf Blight came through. I don't know of any time where we have the opportunity to have such a huge crop out there, just beautiful looking corn, if we can protect it and get to black layer. That's the race that we're in right now.
Hey, Dan, hold that thought. We're going to be back in just a moment. We're going to take a quick look at the marketplace. And markets were a bit mixed at the Thursday market close. September corn 3 1/4 cents higher, 401 3/4, with December rising 3 1/4 at 420 3/4. Soybeans in August 1.5 down at 10.04 1/4, with September rising 3/4 penny at 10.05 3/4. Soybean meal in August $2.30 a ton, in the red at $269.70. Wheat in September a penny higher, 541 1/2, with December wheat unchanged at $5.61 1/4. In the livestock market close for Thursday, August live cattle down $1.22, $225.80, with October falling $1.35 at $222.15. Feeder cattle in August $2.62, a hundredweight lower at $328.90, with September down $2.25 at $329.65. Lean hogs in August 27 cents, a hundredweight weaker at $108.20, with October 20 cents more at $91.10 a hundredweight. That is the Thursday market close. This is Farm Here Daily. I'm interested because you kind of brought it up there. We know Brazil deals with their own version, soybean rust. But the difference between Brazil and here is they don't have winter kill like we do, which really helps tamper down a lot of the disease pressure that we have. Do you have, I know it's new, but do you have any theories or guesses on why we're seeing such a huge outbreak of this year?
It does overwinter in the South. It overwinters in a host plant in the South, not corn, obviously. And so it overwinters, it needs a live host. And then when corn production starts, and, they start growing corn in Texas in late January, and you go across Mississippi and in the different areas. Why this year? I think we've had the perfect storm of weather. Think of all the wet conditions they've been dealing with in the South, and then it moved up into the Midwest. And we've had the same number of storms and the same number of flooding conditions and wet conditions. I think since July 4th, where I live in Fort Dodge, Iowa, we have received 12 inches of rain.
Wow.
And the only time I remember with that much rain was probably 93 when we had the Des Moines Waterworks challenge with the compromised water system because of the flooding. I don't know of another time where July has been so wet. And I think it was in the south. It blew up there. Then we have the strong winds over the 4th, and we've had continuous rain ever since. And perfect storm. This might only be a generational thing. We may never see it for a while, but it's here now.
You said we're in a race to the black layer. As we look forward to that point, what are you watching for in the fields right now?
We will be doing repeat visits to all the fields that we have in Sky Scout. I think we have somewhere north of 140,000 acres divided up between about 1,000 fields and about 100 growers. So we have a team. We divided the state in quadrants, and I go to a different quadrant each week, take members of our team out, and we see what we can see. Then we report to each other. We're going to keep doing that. A lot of fungicide will be applied between now and the end of July. I think we have to look at August as a key time to continue scouting, and most people quit looking at their corn in August. They might go back in September to schedule harvesting, see if something's got a stock issue. But I don't know a lot of individuals that go into corn in August. We'll be following it through. Sky Scout will be running aerial all the way through September.
Wow.
So we'll get to black layer in September. It just depends upon when things were planted. Some fields were planted in early April. They'll be at black layer by the end of August, 1st of September. My thought is we need to get really through August. Without a reinfestation, I saw corn last year personally because a friend of mine wasn't going to spray. He finally did, and he used a plane. He did the first week of August. The plane came up to a building site, and his field was right by the building, so it had to lift. And so that corner of his field was never sprayed. If you go in there with a white shirt the middle of August on a field that's not sprayed, you come out looking basically like you're just from Tennessee and the Tennessee Volunteers. It is completely orange. The plants completely die. They're just crispy. And you never want that in August. You got to get to September, and that's our big challenge.
So just as a reminder, and I'm having to remind myself every day, we are less than a week away from August. So what you're saying is essentially, folks, we're only planning on scouting this upcoming week, and then they're done. So you're saying scout much longer than just the next week? No,
scout through the end of August. August is the fourth quarter, if we use the sports analogy. I'm a big Vikings fan, so I like to throw those in there. And the Vikings haven't done as well in the fourth quarter in some of these playoff games in the past, and we got to beat Mahomes, except for last year. But we got to get to the fourth quarter and be ahead and win this game. We got to go to August 31st. Keep looking at the fields to August 31st.
Fourth quarter, you're on the fourth down, you're a yard away. You don't just stand up and walk away. You're saying, push it through, get through to the end.
Yeah, you don't want 50, 100 bushel yield losses. Even at just plain old $4 corn, that's $400 an acre. 1,000 acres, that's almost half a million. I am passionate about agronomy. You can tell that. I have no intention of doing anything but being an agronomist until someday they have to go find me out in the field. I don't relish what individuals are going through and the decisions that people are having to make, but I can't emphasize enough the importance of going out and looking. There's too much at stake this year.
Dan, I have one more. I'm going to switch topics real quick, and it's going to be a quick one, but I did want to cover a little bit of a fun question before I let you go. And that is, we're also at the time of the year where you hear the climatology folks start talking about that corn humidity cause. Tell tell me a little bit about that. Give a little bit of details. Sometimes I worry that there's these urban meteorologists making statements that the agronomy folks in rural America might want to make a comment or two about.
It's true, with all the corn we have out here and all the respiration that we are, it does pick up. There's no doubt that we have plenty of humidity. I think this year, they're talking about that. I think 12 inches of rain in a lot of areas across July has contributed a lot to that. So you take all the rainfall that's trying and all the evaporation that is occurring or trying to occur, and then the corn respiring. We have a tremendous amount of humidity, and it's going to be that way and push that way all the way through until the corn gets to black layer. So, I've seen reports with some of the individuals and some of the stations that I walk. That's the hot topic right now.
Yeah, so basically when I walk outside my house, I'm in the air conditioning, I walk outside, my glasses fog up. Corn's only doing a little bit of that. It's probably more the 12 inches of rain.
I think the 12 inches of rain has had a big part of that. Yeah.
Has a bit of the heavy lifting. Dan Bjorklund is the agronomy technical advisor for Landus. Dan, thank you so much for joining us on Farm Here Daily. Is there a way for folks to get a hold of you or your team, figure out a little bit more of what you guys are doing?
Yes, the quickest way is 515-800-GROW. That's our call center, and we have some excellent agronomists that man that basically 24/7. Can get a hold of us that way. If someone has a question directly for me, they know my number. They'll hand it out. The phone has blown up, I have to tell you, over the last couple weeks, and I expected it. Yeah. But that number, 515-800-GROW would be the best way.
Dan Bjorklund, thank you so much for joining us on Farm Here Daily.
Thanks, David.
This is Farm Here Daily. Thanks so much for listening. Again, in order to continue to produce this type of local programming, we would love to have you join our community. So please like and follow the podcast and check out our social media at FieldForwardPod. You can also find me on social media at Geiger Reports. You can also see me on TV, WHO TV Channel 13, every weekday in their morning and noon hour programs. Again, I am your host, David Geiger, and I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody.